there were people making the programmes who weren't afraid to make decisions that were for the best for the listener, really, rather than just sticking to strict programming rules, which can happen in radio, as we all know. And I remember one time being in there with a band called Red Cross, who were from America, really sort of very tight, very rocky, in fact. And Peter Curran was doing the midday show, and he would have a band on performing, and Red Cross got into this particular number and were just steamrolling. It was just all happening, and obviously Peter introduced them with 4 minutes to go to the news, and it came up and they were still playing, so he just quietly faded them down, went into the news, did the weather, traffic reports, and then he just faded them back up as though nothing had happened, and then the song finished and he just carried on talking as though nothing had happened, which is great radio for the listener, which I think is the main thing, and that's always been the thing with GLR. They kind of, I think, a station think of the listener first. And then there is another one. I remember being in there with how interviewees, with all sorts of different people doing interviews, and they can actually really sort of lose themselves in the interview. And I remember being there with Charlie Watts, and it was with Peter Curran doing his mid-morning show, and coming up to the news, Peter said, no, it wasn't the news, sorry, it was coming up to a traffic report, because Peter made the mistake of saying, with both mics live, said, well, now we'll go over to Scotland Yard and speak to Sally Grimshaw. And of course Charlie Watts went to get up, and Peter said, where are you going? So he said, I thought we said we were off to going to Scotland Yard. So he said, no, we're going. So it's just one of those chaotic moments, but good live radio.
Well, when GLR came along, it was a time when there really weren't many radio outlets that would allow left field singer-songwriters to do their little sessions. The kind of thing we almost take for granted now. Radio 2 does a great deal, Radio 1 does them, but all kinds of stations do them, even commercial stations. But the point when GLR started, Radio 2 really was very much a station for old people that I don't think, did things apart from the folk and country shows. Radio 1 was very much in the smashy and nicey era. And you could take people into GLR, and they either did little sessions where they'd sing in a guitar style to Tim Smith, or if they played piano or something, you went into the basement where there was this wonderful, I don't know what kind of piano, but it was a grand piano, definitely. And I remember taking Chuck Berry's pianist, Johnny Johnson, who was a fantastic guy who worked with Chuck on all those hits, and he just played and did this wonderful session for, I think it was Richard Skinner, and then there was just a series of these amazing things. GLR was about all kinds of things. For me, just because I worked with so many young musicians, it was great because it provided a platform for people and it helped to get people's careers going. But obviously it was also a most amazing place because there were all these very enthusiastic and energetic young broadcasters like Gideon Coe, Fee Glover, and somebody called Chris Evans, and they were all around at the same time. It was amazing, and it was I guess it was the melting pot, although they all came out of it with their own individual characteristics. And well, it was amazing. I think that it had a great impact on a lot of the good radio we have today in the new century.
Hi, my name's Dylan White, and for the past 18 years I've been a record plugger. Back in the late 80s, London had Capital Radio playing all the hits. It had Kiss, which was a high-profile dance station, but quietly in the corner was GLR playing guitar music. At the time, I managed a band called Well Loaded. On the station was Gary Crowley on a Sunday afternoon, and he used to play this band's demos and play the record. And nothing was more exciting for the band and myself as a manager hearing this record in the afternoon on the radio. It was unbelievable. And I said to Gary Crowley, I said, Gary, it's great you're playing the record. How do I get other DJs to play the record? He said, Dylan, you've got to get a record plugger. I said, a record plugger? What on earth's that? Well, I found out, didn't I?
Great.
Happy birthday, GLR.